All right, we are on day 4 of the Algebra 2 Semester 1 final review. Are you ready? All right, so we have the quadratic formula. We've been using this the whole time. Everybody, great start. This is why I don't edit anything. All right, so we have to use this equation, and to be able to use the quadratic formula, our equation has to equal 0. So is this one ready to go? Yeah. We have been quadratic formulating for pretty much the entire semester, so I think you guys are fine. I just want to do a quick review on this. So I have 1 squared minus 4 times 3 times -5 all over 2 times 3. So again, we've been doing this a whole bunch, and I think a lot of you had that written down from yesterday. Reminder, we have to figure out what's inside of there. So we grab our calculators, we do all that. Everyone's totally getting 61. Yeah. So we have positive 61, and on the bottom we have 6. Can we do anything with 61? Can I put a perfect square into 61? No. So we're going to leave it like this. So when we were doing just the quadratic formula, we didn't really do anything with it. We just left it like this. Okay. This next part that I want to review, and I think some people will need to study this for your final on Friday, we have something called the discriminant. Does that sound familiar? Okay, so the discriminant is when we are just using this part of the quadratic formula. Okay, we had 3 different options that could happen. If you got no, that wasn't there from before. Shh. All right. If you had a positive answer, okay, it meant you had 2 real solutions. Does that sound familiar? Okay. If you had, there should be a negative here. Sorry, this is a typo on my part. If you had a negative here, it means you had no real solutions. You had, when we square root a negative, imaginary. Okay. We don't have a space for this, but I'm going to add this in here because I think you all should know it. If you got a 0 for your discriminant, it means we have real solutions. And how many real solutions do you have? 1. Yeah, because when we square root a 0, it's just 0. So we would have 1 real. Okay. That's a very ugly L. All right. So why we use the discriminant, it let us know if something happened or not. Okay. So we have a basketball player there throwing a ball. We have this equation here. Okay. H represents our height, T is our time. And we want to know, will the ball hit 20 feet? When we did problems like this, we just used the discriminant. I'm going to be honest, there's some people in this room, this did not go well on their test. Okay. So 20 represents a height, so I'm going to replace my height with 20. So we'll say 20 equals, okay, and we just talked about this. We're about to use a quadratic formula, or at least part of it, and when you do that, your equation has to equal 0. Okay, so I'm going to minus the 20 from both sides. Okay, so now I have 0 equals negative 8t squared plus 20t minus 16. Oop. And now we're just going to use, I don't know why it's not scrolling down for me. We're just going to use the discriminant. Okay. So we're plugging this into our calculator, and we're really looking for what out of these things are happening. Okay. So when we plug this in, our discriminant is a number. Thank you, sir. So we're getting negative 112. So is this going to hit that height of 20? No, because if I get a negative, it means it's imaginary. And could I have imaginary heights that are being hit? No, so this would be a no. Do you see where I say this one might need some questions? All right. The reason why I know you guys know how to use the quadratic formula, do you see how these are written a little bit differently than we're used to? So that's why I did want you guys to do this. For 79, the answer is A. Oh, I hate this thing. All right, the answer is A. And then for this one, again, you would plug in the answer moved over, and so the answer is no. Okay. For the 80, everyone got B. Yep, thanks. And everyone plugged in 16 here and subtracted it over, and then I hope everyone got a negative inside there, so the answer would be no. Is that what everybody got? Okay, all right. Our next one, luckily we reviewed this yesterday, so again, this shouldn't take much time. How do we get an I? Negative in the square root, okay. 75, would everyone agree I cannot square root 75? No, but is there a number that goes into 75? 25, so I'm going to split it between 25 and 3. The square root of 25 is 5, and I'm going to have 5i and square root of 3, okay? I want you guys to look at our answers down here. Do they have plus minuses right now? No, so kind of look towards your answers to tell you what you need to use, okay? So this one I can't take it any further. That's our answer. Are you guys okay if I just circle the answers? Have we been doing this a ton? Do you guys know how to do this? Yeah, you guys are fine. Okay. All right, so I'm going to answer C and B. All right. Yes. Okay. All right. I squared, what does I squared equal? -1, thank you. All right. So this next part, I'm going to recommend, because I'm going to say some of us have forgotten how to do this, is your calculator does the whole thing. If we remember on our calculator, does it have I? Yeah. So I want everyone to go to their calculator. If you need a graphing calculator, I still have some up here on my desk. Okay. And we are going to plug in this whole thing and double check, does it look exactly how it looks on your calculator? So we're going to have parentheses, we're going to have 5 plus 2, and then reminder to get the I. Does everybody see on the decimal? It's right above there. Do you guys see that? So I'm going to hit second, and then the decimal, and the I pops up. Do you guys remember that? Mines are blown right now. Okay. And then I have -2 plus 3 second I. And your calculator gives you the answer. Okay. All right. I'm going to have you guys do 86. Are you okay? Do 86. Do 86. Oh. Okay. For 85, our answer is going to be A. And everyone for 86 got B. B. Okay. Obviously, that's something if you plug in the wrong thing, your calculator will give you the wrong thing. Okay. All right. I'm flipping the page. The answer for this, it was on my calculator. You should have gotten -16 plus 11i. Okay. All right, on to the next page. We have one last thing to talk about. It's probably the trickiest thing I taught you in Chapter 4. This is when we are writing our equations in vertex form by completing the square. Okay, so this is probably the hardest thing I taught you in Chapter 4. So when we write this in vertex form, we are trying to get our equation to look like this. Okay. To complete the square, we had a little formula to help us out. It's when we took our b here, we divide it by 2 and we square it. Does that sound familiar? Yep. Yes, thank you. Okay, so when we're doing this process to complete the square, first we have to create a square. We have to create a blank. So if you remember, whatever's back here, we have to get rid of first. So I'm going to add over that 6 to the y. So I'm going to have y plus 6 equals x squared plus 4x, and now we have a blank. Are you remembering this? This looks familiar? Okay. So I'm going to take that 4, I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to square it. When we do that, we get 4. Okay, so we're getting 4. So that's going to go here in our blank, and if I do that on one side, I have to do it on the other. Okay. So now on this side, we have y plus 10. Okay. And now we're going to start writing our rule. We're about ready to write it like this. Okay. So I have my x and my square. And the number here, reminder, it was ever what's inside here. So it is 4 divided by 2. 2. So that goes here. Okay. We're almost there. Reminder, we're trying to get y on its own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. So now our equation is y equals x plus 2 squared minus 10. Okay. So now we're in vertex form. So you could tell me your vertex. A reminder, these two things are our vertex. This, though, reminder, what do I have to do to the sign? Flip it. So our vertex is really -2, -10. Okay. Now, I'm going to assume on Friday you will have had a ton of finals by the time you guys see me. And I'm going to say some of us will forget all these little tricks I just taught you. Okay. Do you all have something with you right now that could check for you or do a guess and check? Here's what I want everyone to do. I want you to take your calculator. We are going to graph this equation and this equation at the same time. If they are the same, it means you are correct. Okay, so we're going to go to our graphing calculators. Everyone's okay? I'm going to click off of this. Everyone's okay? All right, so I'm going to hit my y equals button. Oh, I can't be holding pens. I'm going to hit the y equals button. And luckily, we can graph two things at once. So I'm going to have x squared plus 4x minus 6. Always double check, did you do that correct? And then I'm going to plug in the other equation, the one that we just found. So we just found x plus 2 squared. Oh, forgot my parentheses. Hold on. Boop, boop. There we go. Oh, oh, I'm just messing. I'm just going to start over. Oh, there we go. Is everybody okay? That took a while. All right, so now I'm going to hit graph. Oh, so are we correct? Yes. So could you do that to help you with a guess and check?
Well, I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
see the other.
All right, so if we go back here, another thing that we can do to help you with your guess and check, if you have a plus here, good morning board, if you have a plus here, it means you have to have a plus here. So I'm going to have you guys do number 88. Are there two answers we could cross off right away?
Yes.
Yes, what two could we cross off?
A and C.
A and C. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have you guys do 88. You can either do it via equation or guess and check. I'll let you guys decide. All right. So on 87, I crossed off the two that have a plus because this one does have a minus here. And for 87, I'll give you guys this answer. Our answer should be A. And for 88, that everyone totally just did, everyone should have D. Okay, so again, if you forget the rule on test day, you can always use your calculator to do a guess and check. Okay, that is chapter 4. We're going to do our last chapter, chapter 5. Luckily, we just got done doing chapter 5, so it shouldn't take us very long. All right, in chapter 5, we name things. So if you don't have these names yet memorized, you will need to have these memorized, but you guys did pretty well on this when we did it back in chapter 5. So reminder, we name them based on the highest power and how many things there are. So if I look at this first one, I'm going to call it a quartic. Okay. Oh, gosh. Maybe we do have to study. And we should call it a trinomial. Okay. All right. I think we can do these real quick. So 89, I'm going to call it a cubic. And we're going to call this one a polynomial, 4 terms. This one down here, we're going to call it a quintic, and this one we're going to call it a binomial. All right, this next part is probably something we might have forgotten. We did this right before Christmas break. So this is when we are giving you the answers. It's your job to write the equation. Reminder, when we do this, we write the opposite sign, and then we write it in factored form. So when we say factored form, you're going to write it like this to us, okay? We then are going to FOIL it to try to get an equation, okay? So right now here are all the answers I've given you. I'm giving you 3 answers, so our n answer should have x to the third, okay? So because of that, we should have x to the third, okay? So I'm going to do opposite signs. So I'm going to have x, and I see I have a positive 1 here, so I'm going to have negative 1. I have a negative 1 there, so I'm going to say x plus 1. And then I'm going to have x minus 5. So we wrote it in factored form, and now we're going to FOIL it because we're trying to write an equation. So these two, what do we see about these two? Difference of squares. So I'm going to FOIL these two, so I'm going to have x squared. What's going to happen to our middle junk? Cancel. We have positive 1 and negative 1, so those are going to cancel. And at the end here, then I'm going to have negative 1. I'm going to bring down this x minus 5, and then we have to FOIL that. Okay. Make sure you go from highest power down to lowest power. So I'm going to have x to the third minus 5x squared minus 1x plus 5. Okay. Did we get the power that we thought we were going to? Yes. Okay. How could we check this again? Plug it in. So I want you guys to grab your calculator, and I want you to graph this. Graph it, graph it, graph it. Everyone's totes graphing it right now. Okay. So we're graphing this. Clear all that stuff we had in before. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have x to the third. Again, double check that you plugged everything in correct. Minus 5x squared minus x plus 5. Okay. I'm going to graph it. How do I know that I'm right now? It crosses it 3 times. And where should it have crossed at? Negative 1, 1, and 5. So we see that, but also I could look at my table. Does it cross at negative 1 and 5? Oh my gosh. Okay, so again, you can use your table or your graphing calculator to know if you're right or wrong. Okay. All right. Do 94. Do 94. Do 94. Do 94. Do 94. Okay. All right. I am hoping that everyone did something. X minus 3, x plus 3, and x plus 4. Yes? Yep. And then did everyone get A? Okay. All right. Our next section is when we did stuff on our calculator. Okay. Do you guys want us to review the min, the max, and the zero? No. Okay. I thought you guys were going to be okay. All right. So if you remember, all what we're going to do is we're going to plug this into our calculator. I'm just going to click on my calculator real quick so we just remember where we go. So we click on our calculator. You plug in your stuff. I'm going to leave the equation that I have in there. So you plug in your calculator. And then reminder, you hit second and the trace button. And reminder, does it give you these things? Yes. Do you guys remember how to do those? Okay, so your calculator will give you the zero, max, and min. Yeah? Okay. All right. Are you okay if we skip over this then? Because, yeah, I think we've been using our calculators a ton. If you do have questions on calculators, we can talk after class today or before your final. So I'll give you guys these answers real quick. So this one actually, crazy. It crosses it 3 times. So it crosses here, here, and here. And this one, when we find our max and min, is this. And then here, here, and here. And our max and our min is this. Okay. All right. our last thing, our last notes together, keep in your tears. This luckily we literally just did in chapter 5. I taught you guys synthetic division and long division. What were you guys better at? Synthetic. You guys were better at synthetic. Now, though, can you use which one you were better at on the test? Yes, because am I grading your work? No, so do whatever method you want. Couple things we need to remember, though. When we are missing something, you have to add in a 0. We have to add in a 0. This one right here, what do we notice we're missing? An x, so I'm going to add in a 0x. And then what's the other thing we have to remember when we synthetically divide? Flip it. Yeah, so I'm going to have a -1 here. I'm just going to go through this real briefly because we literally just got done doing this last week. Okay, reminder, we bring down that number there and we multiply. Now I want to talk about this because the answers are written a little bit differently than what we're used to. Okay, and I want to talk about that. Okay, is this looking familiar? You guys remember doing this last week? Okay. Other thing we need to remember, if I start here at x to the third, that means we're starting here at x squared. So I'm going to have 2x squared minus 3x plus 3. Now I need to pause, everyone. Okay. When we took our test, we wrote it as a fraction. Now, if we remember, when it looks like this, we're going to write our remainder as just 4. Okay, so no fraction, just bring down that number. It's a remainder of 4. Okay, do we remember this? Are we feeling okay? Okay, I'll give you guys, I don't think we have to review these because we literally did this last week. So this is our answer of D, and this is our answer of B. Okay, and that's our final review. All right.